This is the On the Mark podcast, bringing you facts, opinions, and personal experiences from the outdoor industry.
I got the opportunity to shoot an AR-15. That was one of the funnest experiences that I've had.
It's pretty exciting. It's a big rush.
Presented by Sightmark, an industry leader in optics, bore sights, night vision, and more. Make your mark. Welcome to the On the Mark podcast. I'm Jeff Hamilton, your host. Today, I kind of want to give a shout out to everybody that makes the podcast possible. You know, I'm backed by a great company called Sightmark who sponsors this podcast. But just so you know, it's not a one-man show. I've also got Steve here who does my sound. And Steve, you might not realize it, but Steve actually has his own podcast. Steve, do you have a mic available for you real quick? Give yourself a little shout out, because it's one thing that I haven't done yet. We're 6 episodes in. I haven't given you any credit.
I do have my own podcast.
Well, tell us real quick about it. What do you got going on?
Yeah, my own podcast is called About Mansfield. Now, I know that you have listeners that are all over the country, but my target audience is actually right here in Mansfield, Texas, where Selmark is located. We do local news. We bring in guests to talk about, just like you're about to interview a guest, and we bring in some business owners or politicians, people who are on the city council or the school board, or just people who have an interesting story. So that's what we do. Absolutely. So if you are a local of DFW, and I say DFW because in the Mansfield podcast, he also covers weather and stuff like that, all things that might affect you, even if you aren't directly in Mansfield. You should check out the Mansfield podcast and give Steve some love, because he is one of the main assets that help get this show rolling on a weekly basis. So now that we got that out of the way, I got to introduce our guest for today. Her name is Rainie Tucker, and she's from Sportsman Outfitters out of Longview, Texas. Rainie, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good.
Good. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you get started with Sportsman Outfitters?
Well, I was actually a veterinarian technician for a while, and then I decided that I really wanted to continue my passion of hunting. So I was like, why not? Why don't I just try to work in a firearms store? So that's kind of how it started out. I knew nothing about guns, really. I knew calibers and whatnot, but I didn't know anything about guns.
Sure. Yeah.
And whenever I started working there, I was like, I'm going to try to really know about firearms, how to use them, kind of break them down, know the parts and kind of the guts that makes them into what they are. And I ended up getting better as I worked there. I mean, I worked myself up to be the manager, and being a female in a firearm store is kind of intimidating to some people, but
Sure.
I mean, I worked to get there, so it wasn't easy.
Yeah. So you came from a veterinarian background. Mm-hmm. Are you anything like my mom was when we went? We used to go dove hunting all the time. In fact, my mom took me dove hunting. My first dove hunting trip was with my mother when I was really young, and I remember my mom was really terrible at telling which birds were which, even though like dove has such a distinct flight pattern. But she would always end up shooting field larks. And there were many times where she would wound a field lark and it wouldn't die, and she would run out and try to like nurse it back to life. We'd end up having this field lark in our living room for like a week trying to nurse it back from hell. So she would shoot it and then go try to save it afterwards. And for those of you that are looking at the legality side of things, she did not shoot field larks. I was lying about that. But did you ever have any scenarios like that where you like wounded an animal and were like, I gotta help this animal now?
I mean, yeah, like if a dog was like hit by a car or something, I was that person that would be like, oh, let me try to save you. But then financially, it's like, this isn't my dog.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And let me try to find your owner. This is a stray. But yeah, I always brought dogs home. It got annoying, but I always had like a hunting side too. So it was kind of like a contradiction. I would nurse animals back to health, but then I would also hunt very heavily. So it was kind of defeating the purpose.
Sure. Well, you talk about, kind of being a woman in the firearms industry. When you early on, and maybe even still now, did you get a lot of those guys who just completely overlooked you at first and thought maybe you wouldn't know what you were talking about? Mm-hmm. And was that something you had to fight a lot?
I did. It was hard. Even from being in a small town, everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. It was like I came into this store as, they're they're regulars, and they come in for certain people and they ask for certain people. Yeah. And, after a time, I would have a lot of people, and I still have it now, being the manager, and there's a lot of people that come in and ask for me. Yeah. But I still have people now that will call and say, can I have a guy at the gun bar? Yeah. And it's just like, yeah, what do you, and I get pretty cocky with it. And I'm like, yeah, what you need? Yeah. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, do you have a blah, blah, blah? But I used to, whenever I had some, most of my guys know that if they have questions or anything, they would come to either me or Shelly. Yeah. And we're the women up there, so like nobody will ever come to us first about anything. But I'll watch them. I'll watch some of the customers that just bypass me, and they'll go ask, a ungodly question like, what suppressor will be good for my 5.56? And none of the guys mess with the cans but me and Shelly. And they'll be like, oh, that girl over there, you go talk to her and ask her about that. And then they'll just kind of look at me and be like, that 5'3" looking blonde girl over there, you kidding? Yeah. But I get that all the time. But I've had a lot of like hate feedback off of it on like they don't want to talk to me, or I've got like, oh, you really? Yeah. You're going to talk about guns? That's hot. That's cool. Yeah. It's a normal thing. So it's just kind of, I'm used to it now. Yeah. So I've kind of earned my respect a little bit. Yeah.
What do you think it is? Is it the mindset from a men's perspective of like, oh, women aren't going to know how to use this equipment? Or like, that's so funny to me. Because even like personally, so I would say that I'm not guilty of this, but literally 2 weeks ago, I was playing with a new product we have here at Sightmark, which I can't go into great detail about, but I was getting some through-device image with it, and my wife was like, oh, I want to go shoot a pig. And I was like, okay, great. Well, I'm going to run this one because it's brand new, and you run this one. And she was like, no, I want to run the new one. I'm like, babe, you're not going to know how to do it. And she's like, let me see that. And like literally within 30 seconds, she was like, okay, this is how you do this, this, and this, and it's perfect. I'm like, wow, yeah, that is exactly how you do it. I can't do it any better than that. I was like, it's literally, there's nothing that goes into it other than knowing the products and knowing how they operate. Mm-hmm. It's like the guys that are on this high horse about this stuff they need to understand it's not because you possess some special ability that nobody else can.
Just read. Yeah. Just like this actually happened with one of the Sightmark 5.56 and 2.23 bore sighters. Yeah. I had a customer that says, do y'all have a AR-15 bore sighter? Yeah. And we have the specific bullet ones like that. Right. And I said, okay, yeah, what caliber are you looking for? And he was just like, an AR-15. And I was like, oh, okay, well, we have multiple calibers of that. Yeah, sure. So it comes in, and he ends up getting it. And he looked at me, and he was like, was I on the phone with you asking about this bore sighter? Yeah. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, do you know what an AR-15 is? I said, yeah. He said, it's only a 2.23. I said, no, and I'm pretty sassy, and I say, no, actually, it's 2.23, 5.56, 6.5 Grindle, 6.8, 7.62. I just went off. Yeah. And I was like, I have nothing to lose. You're buying a $20 bore sight. Right, so if I piss you off, I'm sorry, but...
No, but he needs to know, too, because he sounds like an idiot every time he opens his mouth.
That's like a daily thing. And, guys don't like being told what to do, especially by women in the firearm industry. Yeah. So, and I'm just that kind of person that's like, no, I'll put you in your place. Yeah. I kind of have a backbone about it. So it came over time. Yeah. But yeah.
That's funny because... never mind. I was going to talk about David Chipman because he also thinks that a 5.56 is a AR-15. Specifically, an AR-15 is a 5.56, and it's like, yeah, okay, it's multiple calibers. Like it can go in so many different calibers. It's unreal. But anyway, we'll steer away from that because I know you're not like a huge fan of diving into political stuff.
But I understand like how they just. With the political thing, I watched, the old movie SWAT. Yeah. Me and one of my friends, we were watching the movie, and now that I'm into guns, I love watching movies, and I'm like, oh, SP5, like, just watching all the guns. Well, that scene when they were on the bus and they were breaking that guy out, and they came on there with like the SP5s and a suppressed 22 and shot all the people, and then all of a sudden there was like a news broadcast, and someone was talking, and they said 2 local officers with AR-15s gunned down the bus. And I was just like, what? Those are SP5s. Right. And then he was like, that's just how political things happen these days. And I'm like, no, are you kidding me? Yeah.
Yeah, they try to sway public opinion by reporting whatever it is that fits their narrative, whether it's accurate or not. It's ridiculous. But for women in the industry, you know, I didn't really realize that there was so much, like, what's the word I'm looking for here? Just men discrediting women and their knowledge of firearms.
Degrading.
Kind of degrading until I actually started working here. And it wasn't because of my company or our values, but we do a lot of trade shows here. And I had never done a trade show until I started working here. And my first trade show was Texas Trophy Hunters, and it was phenomenal. I had a lot of blast doing it. But I will tell you that I worked the booth the same time as one of our social media influencers, Caitlin Lowe's, who's been here a long time, very, very knowledgeable in the industry. And I'm sitting here brand new to the company. I knew about firearms, but I didn't know a lot about our products yet, as far as like the nitty gritty. Like,
please tell me she just blew your mind.
No, she blew my mind. She blew my mind before that because I'd known her before that. I'd met her a few times before the show. So I knew that she was super knowledgeable. But at the show, we're both standing there at the end of our booth, right? And man after man would walk right past her and then come up and talk to me and ask me specifics about our products. And about 45 minutes into it, like, nobody had directly asked her any questions yet. And she comes over to me and she's like, people are just continuing to like walk by me, and, you know, like, it's kind of insulting. And I was like, yeah, I don't know a single thing about any of these products. Like, if I'm being honest with you, like, I'm out here just, you know, talking, you know, whatever I can, speaking to what I do know. But knowledge-wise, she was way more knowledgeable than I was. And I ended up directing a lot of people her way because I'm like, no, who you need to talk to is her. Because she knows a lot more about it than I do, especially about the specs and everything like that. I can tell you, you know, this is an awesome scope, but any Joe Schmo could have told you that. I'm like, why would you come seek me out for that opinion? Why don't you go talk to her and learn about the actual applications you can use this for, or, you know, the best specs and stuff like that. But it kind of blew me away to get to kind of experience that on the flip side. I'm like, these guys are immediately thinking, I know way more about the products than her. I was like, that's not the case at all. She's very intelligent.
Yep, that's every day. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Monday or Saturday. That's every day in my eyes. And even in my boss, Shelly, in her eyes, too. And she's, I mean, her and her husband have owned the store since the early 90s. Mm-hmm. And they'll go to her husband for any questions or whatever, and he'll say, no, you got to go ask her. She does all the ordering. She does all this and the parts. And
right.
But, I mean, it's just like, it was a motivation for me to be like, oh, if someone's just going to pass me up and go ask someone over there, I know, like, confidently, I know these products. I know how some of these firearms work. And now I'm starting to really use them.
Right.
So, you know, I'll, like, Silencer Co., love their cans. Mm-hmm. And I know almost every single one of them. I can name them off. And, you know, I've got people in service that I talk to on the daily, my reps, and then kind of the big wigs of them, too. Like, I've talked to them about suppressors, and they're like, wow, she knows a lot about this.
Right.
Well, you know, I've either shot them or done the research or watched videos, and I just really made it passionate that I wanted to know that.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anyone come to me and say, actually, you're wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't stand being that person that's like, you know, you actually said the wrong thing and you look dumb. Like, if you say one wrong thing, then, you know, it's just like, oh, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. If I say one wrong thing, that's like 10 times down the totem pole that I go down to. So, like, whenever I say something like specs-wise and optics or guns or suppressors, like, I make sure I know on paper exactly, like, what this is rated for, what the image quality, anything. I just make sure I know every single thing about it before I open my mouth and look stupid.
Well, and then it's got to feel good when Joe Schmo calls up to the store and asks for an AR-15 bore sight, and you're like, this is all I had to do to know more than these guys? Mm-hmm. Just know AR-15 comes in multiple calibers?
Now, man. A couple years ago, I would have been like, oh, that's, you know, this over here, that's an AR-15. And then now I'm just like, oh, I know almost every caliber that it can come in. You
know what you should have done with that guy? You should have been like, yeah, we've got them, come on in. And then just have like 30 of them laid out on the counter. If you want all the AR-15 bore sights, here you go. There's like 30 of them right here. well, which one of these are going to work for mine? All of them. They're all the same, right?
That you asked for an AR-15, just put them all in at once.
You load your mag up with each one of these, and then you just cycle through them. Fighting that negativity that comes with, guys just looking down on women in the workplace or women in the firearms industry. It's got to be getting a little bit easier though, right? Because there's so many women that are joining the firearms industry today, like an insane number of women, just whether or not you look at the new background checks for firearms purchases coming from women, a lot of defensive like handguns and stuff like that have been happening. It seems like there's more and more women kind of flocking to the firearms industry today. I would think that some of that's starting to ease up a little bit. Not really?
Like, you mean just by, like, being a stereotype, like they don't know anything?
Right, yeah.
Or, well, it can be. So, a lot of women, like, ever since, COVID happened and the election and everybody's coming and buying firearms and everything, like, I'm a person that I will not push you for a sale, but I'll make sure that if you like this caliber, if you like the way this gun is, I mean, yeah, the Smith & Wesson EZ 9 and 380 has been perfect for people.
Right.
Everyone loves it.
Yep.
But, is that the right firearm for you?
Right.
Like, if you've never shot in your life and this 9mm EZ that your husband bought you with the safety is easy for you to use, but have you ever shot a 9mm before?
Right.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
I really like to push women to, hey, why don't you buy a 22 first?
Sure.
Why don't you shoot that, see how comfortable you are, see how comfortable you like pulling it out, carrying it on you. Then why don't you graduate up to a bigger caliber in a timely manner and kind of practice on that. That's what I did.
Right.
Because I jumped into a Glock 43. Yeah. And as soon as I shot it, it jumped in my hand, and I was like, whoa, this is a lot of power behind this.
Right.
And I was scared to death this was going to come back and just hit me square in the face. I've never been scoped in my life.
Yeah.
And the one time I thought it was going to be this Glock. So got rid of it, hated it. Then, later on I got reintroduced to it, and I was like, okay, I need to start carrying. I've dealt with a lot of creepy encounters and stuff like that, and I was like, I do need to carry a firearm on me. So I purchased a 22 just for fun and shot it a couple times, and I was like, okay, I'm getting really good at this. So I went and bought I went all in on my first carry pistol. Yeah. And I've got a 509 tactical. Yeah. Without a red dot. I'm just kind of winging it with these suppressor sights, but who cares? Yeah. And then I just carry a 380 on me too. So I'm gun savvy now. Sure. Everything's fine, but I would not have shooting that 9 first. Nope. Yeah. To be honest with you, no. That was maybe 3 years ago. Yeah. And now that I've experienced that, I can reintroduce that to women that are trying to get into firearms. Hey, why don't you start small? Right. Especially some older women that just really aren't into guns, but their husband's like, come on, you need one. So I'll try to reintroduce it, and having your spouse tell you need this. In my world, it's like, you tell me I need this, but you don't understand that it kind of worries me. And they're like, oh, no, you need this 9mm. You have to have this. Yeah. It's just like, no, why don't you go talk to some women, which I'm actually, after here, I'm going to go shoot with my Silencer Co. rep's wife. She's a manager at one of the gun ranges around this area. Yeah. And she's going to teach me some handgun tactics and some rifle tactics and stuff like that. And so I'm super stoked, but that's what I need. I don't need one of my, I have police officer friends. They can teach me all day how to hold a gun, but we're not savvy to where you have to do it this way. And I'm like, no, I want to do it this way. Right.
So I'm in the reverse situation with my wife, who's just started carrying within her vehicle because she's still a little uncertain about carrying on her. But she works for CPS, and it's a really, really dangerous job. I mean, a few weeks ago, some coworkers of hers showed up for a visit, and the dad showed up with a gun and just started firing off rounds, and nobody was shot. But still, she called me that day, and she's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to get my concealed carry. And I was like, well, hold on, because they're about to pass some legislation where you don't need that, But it was funny because she was like, I'm ready to start carrying. What do I need? And we had the same conversation where it's like, I immediately was like, okay, you need something that's big enough to stop somebody, whether that's, a 40 to 9mm or whatever. And she was like, okay, well, why don't we start off with something smaller that I'll be, comfortable with shooting at first. So we took one of my Smith & Wesson 9mm, 22s, and she shot that, and she absolutely loved it. But I was pretty adamant on her getting something a little bigger than a 22. And so, and then she was dead set on how it felt in her hand. Like, she wanted something that was going to feel really good in her hand. And so she ended up with the Ruger LCP 380, which is a tiny little compact pistol. I hate it because for me, like, personally,
that's what I carry. I like that gun.
I hate it so much. The reason for me is, like, even though it's a smaller caliber, I still get way more recoil out of that little gun. Maybe it's because my pinky falls off the grip or whatever, but she loves it, and she's dead accurate with it.
It matters on what she's comfortable with in her situation versus, and that's what I push to customers if they're in there together, husband and wife, girlfriend and boyfriend, significant others. I try to push what feels good for you.
Right.
Okay. I know you like the way this feels.
Right.
I know you like the way this is. And, he might think, no, you have to have that one.
Yeah.
No, it's whatever she feels comfortable using if she needs it. Because, my hands are small. That LCP2 fits perfect with the little mag extension for me.
Yeah.
I shot the Hellcat. It pinched me in this little area. Yeah. Love the gun, love the magazine capacity. I just couldn't shoot it but I did trial and error, and I researched and made sure whatever gun I was going to have. And I love the Glock 43X, and I can't carry that because it kind of shows on me.
Sure.
So like in the fall, I'll probably switch over to that, but it's a 9 caliber, But yeah, I totally understand about the whole fitting to your hand.
Yeah.
It's not really how good it feels in your hand, because a Glock 43 feels good in anyone's hand.
Right.
But if you're not used to that snappiness of those little guns, you're just not gonna be accurate. You're gonna be scared of that recoil.
Yeah.
And I totally understand about where she's coming from.
Yeah. Well, and when it boils down to it, when you look at, a self-defense carry gun, if you ever have to use that, there's a pretty good chance that that's going to be close quarters anyway. So, your accuracy out past, let's say 15 yards is not going to be that necessary. A lot of those interactions happen within just a couple of feet. So anyway, it was just a good peace of mind for me to be able to actually just know, okay, you have this now. And now you at least have some line of protection. And it was just huge for me. But to get that phone call from her, it was like, okay, I'm ready, because it had been an ongoing debate for a long time. And I constantly was pushing her towards what I carry. And she told me many times, she's like, I just don't like that gun. I don't like it. I want something else. And so she went with the Ruger LCP, which I didn't even own one. We had to go out and buy one specifically for her. But that was fine. As long as she's got something now that makes her feel a little more comfortable, and like she has a defense. That's what it's all about. But now you said you were about to go shooting, and you didn't mention where you were going shooting at. I'm guessing that's because you didn't want to give them like a little shout out.
Oh, I would love to.
It's ETTS, right?
Yes.
Which stands for Extreme Tacticals and Training Solutions. And I believe they're out of Ellis County, like around in the Waxahachie area. I think maybe Maypearl is actually where they're at. I haven't personally been out there, but
I haven't either.
You haven't either? This would be your first time?
Yeah, I'm excited. I was actually talking to my silencer co-rep, and he's been there for about 5 months, and we were just talking, and I was like, yeah, I just really want to go train with a woman. Like, I just want to talk to another girl in the gun industry, just to, talk about guns and to shoot and stuff like that. And he was like, this couldn't be any more perfect, because you're already going to go up there to Sightmark and have this podcast. Yeah. My wife is a range manager at this range, and I was like, oh, perfect. Do you think she can work me? And he was like, she would love to. Awesome. She gave me a call and said, yeah, just come out whenever you're done. Just come shoot. We'll do whatever you want to do. And, I was so worried. I was like, what do I wear? Like, yeah, right. I'm going to have all these people. I think Magpool just went there, actually, and did some training. And I'm like, wow, that's not intimidating. Yeah, right. I'm just a small town gun girl that's
Good luck following that up. No, I bet you're going to do great. do me a favor and do a little scouting report while you're out there, because I haven't been there. And what I'm interested in is, one, do they have a 2,000-yard lane?
Because I think it's 1250.
Is it 1250?
Is the farthest
Yeah, we used to go here at the company. We used a local range that had a 2,000-yard range for a long time, but they just recently got the entire place shut down because of a property dispute with. They had the property they owned for the range. The 2,000-yard range shot over a family's property line, and they had an agreement in place that like it wasn't an issue. But then, somewhere along the lines, there was some issues with the family getting mad about, or the other things within the family, and they ended up shutting the whole thing down. And then that affected the access to be able to get to the range. And so the whole range had to shut down. So temporarily, we haven't had access to a 2,000-yard range. So we've been keeping our eyes open to see, where there might be a good place to do that.
Yeah, I'll definitely get some information when I get there.
Yeah, but even if they don't, still give me some feedback and let me know, kind of how the range is in general, because that's really not that far from here at all. We would be able to go down there and
I know, this was perfect. Like the timing and everything was just perfect on where I was going to be in this area.
Yeah, terrific. The other thing that I had on the list here to talk with you about is just digital optics and the increase in popularity for those. The reason I wanted to talk to you about them is because we can sit here and talk about your battles against stubborn men all day long in the firearms industry. But what really gives you some credibility is your knowledge in the thermal and night vision side of things. Do you use a lot of these types of products?
Yes.
On a regular basis?
I have a Pulsar Trail, the first generation LRF, the XP50.
Yeah.
That I haven't updated yet. But my gosh, I love that unit. I mean, it is heavy. It's all of 21 ounces, I believe.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's all there, but it's nice because I'm that one in the group that can be like, oh, y'all think that it's about 150? Well, psych, it's 300 yards.
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, even from selling them, I get my customer base and I say, what are you looking for in a thermal? And most of the time in East Texas, we just have tall pine trees and watery river bottoms. So, you're shooting close.
Right.
You're not going to be needing that. You don't need the XP or the XG distance, but many of the 38s or the 30s, some of the XPs, if you're just, bougie like that and you want one for the image quality, then yeah. But I definitely push a lot of those 38s and the 30s on people shooting in my area, but they just those XM30s, they just sell like that.
Yeah.
Because it's right in our area because you just need close quarters. You can save up to 5 guns on that. It's got the whole color palettes, all the reticles. Everyone just loves them.
Right.
And then I really push for Pulsar's products just because of the customer service.
Right.
Just instantly they turn around and everything's great and everyone's been happy with their units. So I really kind of push those.
Sure.
I'm not saying they're my favorite. I'm just saying they're nice.
Yeah. Well, and so you talk about the customer service aspect. I mean, we just did a quick little walk around tour of the building back there at the QA side when we walked through that little room back there. That's our customer service. And we got guys back there. We have
There's so many people here.
We have a few people dedicated solely to Pulsar customer service. So when you call to get something serviced, you actually talk to one of just a few people.
A human.
Yeah, a human.
A human, yeah.
That's here and speaks English fluently and can help you immediately. And that's huge. And that goes across all of our products. And for those of you who don't know, Selfmark, which is the parent company, we own Sightmark, Firefield, Kofiager, Bullet Safe, and then we are the only U.S. distributor for Pulsar. So we got our toes in all kinds of stuff over here. But the nice thing about any of the products that we either own or distribute for, you're going to talk to somebody that's an actual person here in the building with unlimited resources to be able to hook you guys up. And customer service is one of the things that is our biggest focus. We want to make sure everybody's got the best experience possible, and if there's something wrong with a unit, we're going to make sure to correct that and get it fixed for you. But one of the things you mentioned when you were talking about the pulsar units that you use is the using the LRF to tell the distance, right? So when I first got started in night hunting, it was actually on the digital night vision side of things with the Wraith. But I didn't realize how big of an issue it was to be able to tell distance on those digital displays. Because for me, I live on a family farm, and for the most part, I just hunt out there, and I know my distances for everything out there. So it's like in my tree stand, I know it's 200 yards to that back fence line. And so I just had that engraved into my mind already. So I was able to take that Sightmark Wraith, throw it on my gun, and go hunting perfectly without any issues. But I didn't realize I had an issue until I went to another piece of property where I didn't know any of the distances, and I start looking around and I'm like, how far away is that? They're like, oh, well, I don't know, a couple hundred yards maybe. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's a pretty big difference. Couple hundred yards, you're talking a couple of inches up or down. I mean, or
the size of the hog.
Yeah.
Like you can think this is some monstrous hog, and then you're actually 30 yards from it.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was just so funny to me because I'd been hunting with the Wraith for a while, and then all of a sudden I get put into a new environment and I realize, like, oh, wait a minute, I need to kind of be able to figure out how far away something is. So the trail line for Pulsar is wildly popular because it's got the LRF, which is a laser rangefinder, for those of you who don't know, which really does make a huge difference. Personally, under Pulsar, my favorite optic, just for the aesthetics, is the Thermion. I just like that housing a lot better than to me, I'm not really into the like futuristic look of the trail. That just doesn't get me going. But I like the housing of the Thermion, but I'm just like, I would love it to have an LRF on there, you know. So we'll see if something like that comes down the line eventually. But
I like the shape of the scope feel.
Yeah.
Some people, like, you know, in my neck of the woods, hog hunting is just huge.
Yeah.
The only thing that's like hurting them is just ammo resources.
Right.
But I've got a lot of the younger guys that love that trail that they can just pop off and use as a handheld.
Right.
Stick it back on. So they'll hunt for old Sony 2008 shaped cameras.
Yeah.
In that, and just pop it on and off and hold it.
Right.
Which is, it's kind of an ingenious thing that y'all are changing it from that side to scope, so that way you can also purchase the Axions or the Helions, so you can have two.
Right.
So it's kind of a genius thing to get people to do.
Well, and you said that, you know, being able to pop off that trail and use it as a handheld is convenient. You know, I kind of smirk. Other people around the office have said that same thing, and I've just kind of been I like the Thermion better, so that's what it is kind of guy. So I always kind of was like, that's not really a thing. Like, I would never take it off and use it as a handheld. Until I heard the story of last year, this guy was out hunting, and after his hunt, he threw his firearm into the back of his truck, and he was driving around and I guess just scanning fields. And what he had done is he took his trail off of his gun and was using it as a handheld. And he stopped. This is country roads, no light poles or anything. It's complete darkness. He stopped at a stop sign, and he actually heard somebody crying for help. And so he used his trail as a handheld and was able to see off in the ditch somebody had crashed, and he was able to see them and the vehicle. And I guess it was two people in that vehicle. And anyway, he was able to alert the authorities, and they actually showed up and saved both of those people. They had really serious injuries. They saved both of those people. And I was just like, oh my God, I keep laughing at everybody saying they're going to take this off and use it as a handheld. Because for me, I'm like, I don't want to do that. But then I hear a story like that and I'm like, holy crap. Like I wouldn't even think about that. When I think of these items, I think of just hunting, you know, and I'm like, oh man, there's a whole bunch of uses for these that I don't even consider.
Especially with the handhelds, like any of the Axions, I mean, the price points are very affordable for thermal imaging.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of customers that are kind of looking for handhelds. I'm like, you don't have to use this for hunting. When I'm outside at the house, if I hear my dogs bark, I can just throw my thermal up, look around, see if there's an armadillo out there, and my horses, and then I just put it back on because, it's something that will produce heat. You can see immediately, but night vision, you are distanced to where you can see, but someone can hide behind a tree, but you can see the footsteps to where they've hid behind there with thermals. You
got to have some good, for all the night hunting you do, you got to have some good stories, don't you?
I really don't have crazy night hunting stories. I just have if there was
Nobody likes to admit their failures. Let me start off with one, a personal failure of mine night hunting, and then we'll see if you can relate in any way. For me, nothing seems to ever go right. Nothing ever seems to go to plan. And when things do go to plan, everything is perfect. Somehow I still find a way to fuck it up. And my best example of this is I had a group of hogs coming out and digging up in our fields 50 yards from my stand just recently. And they came night after night. They've been coming out at 10:45 right on the dot. 10:45, they're there. It was automatic. And I've never seen pigs on such a, I'm not baiting them in or anything. They're just doing this on their own. I've never seen them be that systematic before. Normally it'd be between 10 and 2 that come out, These ones 10:45 every single night. And I'm okay, they're going to be out there at 10:45. So I show up, I get my stand at 9. But before I had walked to my stand, I parked my truck and I realized that I had not charged my AR. And so I was crap, this is going to make a crap ton of noise if I get up in the stand, then I do it, right? So in my truck with the back door open, but the gun still in the truck. So because I parked about 100 yards away from where my stand was going to be, but I still didn't want to make very much noise. So I'm I'm going to charge the AR inside my truck, right? So I pull back the charging handle, and then I know through past experiences, if I let that charging handle go slowly back in, it doesn't seat the bullet all the way in, right?
I've been there.
Oh, so frustrating, because there's nothing worse than having the perfect shot on a pig, pulling the trigger and just hear click. Because there's nothing you can do except for recharge, and it's
you lose another bullet. There goes $1 on the ground.
Yes,
and charging that, and yes.
So I'm in the back of my truck, and I'm okay, I'm gonna do this, but I know I've got to let it slam forward. But being an idiot, I'm there an hour and a half early, right, from when I know the pigs are gonna show up. I'm in the back of my truck, which is 100 yards away from my stand, which is 50 yards away from where the pigs are digging. So I'm 150 yards away from where the pigs would be. I let that charging handle go, but I still just ease up on it a little bit. I don't let it slam forward all the way. But I think surely that's adequate, right? Sure enough, 10:45 on the dot. Everything's perfect. I got the pigs out there. I've got the best view of them. Here, it's all about content. So I recorded a crap ton of content before anything happens, because I figured they were going to be digging out there for a while. And so I'm recording them through the device. And then I decide, okay, I'm about to shoot. So I get lined up. I got the perfect shot. I pull the trigger. Click. I'm you got to be freaking kidding me. So I eject the mag, pull the charging handle back. And I had to eject the mag because when I pulled the charging handle back originally, the bullet that was in the chamber didn't eject. So, yeah, so I still had a live round in the barrel.
All of this is just pitch black at night.
Yeah. If I had let go, I would have put another bullet behind the bullet that's already in the chamber and would have just screwed up everything. So I had to eject the mag, pull back the handle, recharge it, and then hopefully shoot. But, by that time, there's no pigs left. I mean, they've heard me at this point, and they ran off. So that was my big, epic, I can't believe I just screwed up that bad scenario. Because looking back on it, I'm why didn't I just fucking charge it? Normally, I would charge at the house and be ready to go and be fine. But I had just forgotten, and then I just didn't want to make that much noise, and it cost the entire hunt. Now, the flip side of the story is these pigs were really stupid, and the next night they were back out there at 10:45. So they got what was coming to them. Yeah. But it was one of those things, I couldn't even go to sleep that night. I was so pissed off at myself. Anything like that, you had to have something like that happen to you.
I don't have a malfunction story. Well, I do, but it was just very minor, and it wasn't even mine. It was my buddy's FLIR.
Yeah.
Per usual, something
FLIRs,
just dying. But so I have a 5-year-old son, and he's all into hunting. That's just what he does. He has this cool mom that has guns. He's just like, heck yeah. So my dad was, he didn't video it, but he took pictures. So there was this hog that was like 180 yards away, probably. At this feeder. It was about a 200-pound hog all by itself. And I was like, this is going to be easy. And it's like 5 o'clock. Still using my thermal, but it's 5 o'clock, Sabine River Bottoms. Stupid hot. Okay, there's a lot of heat.
PM or AM?
PM.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's, the image is there, but it's hot. So there's a lot of other stuff going on. So my son's like, can I go with you? And I said, sure. So he comes with me, and I've got those Primos the shooting sticks. Yeah. So I said, you hold on to the back of these, and I'm going to carry the front. Yeah. So I know where he is while he's walking. Right. So we're walking on the edge, and I'm watching this hog, and in my mind, I just have my AR on me, but I don't have like a pistol or anything. So I'm like, gosh, if this hog comes at me, this is going to be bad. Right. But I was just like, it's okay, I'll be fine. So I could feel these walking sticks kind of go a little far out on my right, and I would have to yank it back in. And then he'd come back out again, and I'm like, stay behind me. So then I hear him, we're like 20 yards away, and he goes, Mom, I have to pee. And I said, yeah, you gotta, okay, sure. So then he's behind me, and he's just taking a leak, and this hog's just right there. So I'm setting everything up and everything, and he's got his headphones on, so he's like, Mom, I'm done. And I'm just, I said, okay. So he goes, is that him? Is that the hog? I said, yes. Shh. So I end up shooting him, and he drops. Yeah. I shot him right behind the head at 142 yards. Yeah. It was a perfect, clean shot. Couldn't have gone any better. So I just sat there and waited, and he goes, is it dead? And I said, yeah, well, we just have to wait a second. Okay, now let's go. I said, no, we have to wait, because I'm nervous. My son, he's little. This hog's huge. And I don't know if there's any more around. Yeah. So we end up going to it, and he gets all excited, and he's getting a stick, stabbing his eye. He's all excited. he's all about hunting, and we went on a vacation in Arkansas. As soon as we got there, he found a snake in the grass, brought it in the house to my mom. He's all boy. And on my Instagram, on my bio, it says mother to the famous outdoorsman Rainie Tucker. Yeah, he's all there. He hunts, fishes, does everything. My customers and reps love him. He's just this. He's gonna be Jim Shockey's next apprentice. I'm pushing for that.
Nice. Yeah, my son's the same way. Anytime I shoot something, and like I always make a point to bring whatever I kill back to the house so he can see it, he goes nuts over it. Like almost to like it makes me really, really proud, but at the same time, like he shouldn't enjoy it this much. Like he starts to shake a little bit. He's like, oh, it's like the excitement is so much that he just gets thrilled by it. But it's, as a parent, it's like one of the funnest experiences. And my son's only 2. And I can't wait until he's able to actually go out and shoot his first one, with me, which would be really awesome. And what's great, and I've talked about it multiple times, is with all these digital optics that are coming out now. Optics. I don't know why I said that weird. With all these new digital optics coming out, most of these have the ability to record, video and audio. And to be able to capture those moments, is going to be just phenomenal. I'm so excited for those opportunities. But anyway, it looks like we're about ready to wrap things up here. Real quick, before we sign off, let's give another little shout out to Sportsman Outfitters. How can people find you guys? Where are you guys at? Website, social media? We have a Facebook and an Instagram. We do not have a online store. A lot of people mistaken us for there's a Sportsman's Outfitters in Pennsylvania, Alabama for online, but no, we're just kind of we're not a smaller store. We're growing, but we're just kind of that store that's always been there. Sure. We used to be called Winchester's. Oh, gotcha. So like the OG people that have been in the East Texas area knows us as Winchester's, but it was Winchester's Sportsman's Outfitters. Now we are just Sportsman's Outfitters. Gotcha. But a lot of people in the Longview area, I mean, we're the only store in that area that is a one-stop shop. So We've got archery, we've got hunting equipment, we've got clothes, hunting clothes. We carry Sitka, Orvis, fly fishing. Yeah. We're the only fly fishing store kind of in the East Texas area.
all the night vision, scopes, guns. We're really
a little bit of everything.
Yeah, our busiest time is the end of July till about February.
Okay.
We're just freaking hammered all the time. We got people getting ready for elk hunts. That's
Sure.
our biggest thing. I didn't even know this many people hunted in our area until I started working there and getting ready. Getting people ready is what I like to do.
Right.
I make sure that I'm like, y'all have a checklist. You need your bow work done. You need to be in here at least at the end of July. We get busy.
How many people show up saying, hey, I'm going on an elk hunt, but they have no idea what they need for an elk hunt? Or like no plan at all?
Not very many.
Yeah.
Most of them are like, oh, I've got a buddy that does it all.
Yeah.
But I got some people that come in that'll be like, hey, we're going in the Colorado area. We're going to New Mexico. What do I need? And especially with Sitka clothing. I'm really big into the systems on how they work. So I can go in there and tell you, oh, you need these Apex pants. You need the core lightweights, just anything. And I just outfit them completely. I'm like, okay, but I'll warn you, you're going to spend a pretty penny.
Right, yeah.
But this stuff is going to work for you.
Right.
But I don't have very many people that are newbies.
Yeah.
And if they are, I don't want to treat them like they're a newbie.
Right, yeah.
But I also sell hunts when I'm at the Safari Club show and the Texas Trophy Hunter show. So I see hunters all the time. And I hunt a little bit in the big game, but not as much as I would like to. But
Sure.
I mean, I'm really busy with my own firearm industry. But
Absolutely.
I don't have too many people that are just newbies that come in. They kind of know what they need, and we just have the resources. So they're just in and out, and they'll come and tell me. I mean, I have people that'll bring me, like, pictures of what they've shot. I'll sit there and ask them, be like, hey, you going to Colorado yet?
Yeah.
Have you been walking in your shoes? And they're like, no. And I'm like, go get those shoes on and start walking around practicing.
Wow, that's like incredible advice right there. Just like break your shoes in before you go.
Go walk in your shoes and put whatever backpack with your kid in the back.
Yeah.
Do something to make sure that you're not going to be hurting.
Make sure you're physically prepared for this.
Oh, yes. I'm like a mother hen to these hunters that come in there. And I'm just like, are you doing this right?
Yeah.
Take your mountain ops.
Yeah,
Get all into it.
So if you guys need to make sure you've got the perfect hunting setup, make sure and go see Rainie at Sportsman Outfitters. Thanks a lot, Rainie. We appreciate having you on today.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.